multitask. If you want to share one or whatever, write them all down. We just need to get your mind thinking. Pens are in front of you right there. There's a couple right there. If y'all want to share one, that's fine. We'd share them. Okay, all right, I'm coming back now. Good.
Yes, sir.
Rosemary, thank you very much. Did you get my email back? I didn't know if my email worked or not. We'll see you, Scott. Hey, who else needs one? Need an extra one? Who else needs one? Hey, let me just say this real quick. A couple things that we just need to know. Try to fill this out best you can as you watch the video, and then we're going to try to have some discussion afterwards. We know that every time we get together for last month, this month, and in July, we're only getting together once during the month, so we know that we're not going to be able to get all of our discussion done. But if you put everything on here, then once a month our elders are going through trying to finish everything up and get all the thoughts and pull it back together for the next month. But looks like as we make our way through into starting in August and September and stuff like that, we may be able to do this 2 nights in a row, 2 out of the 4 nights. So we can make sure we got video and plenty of study. And we just know that with summertime, kind of a terrible time to start things, but yet when the Lord leads, so it's just one of those things. A lot of families are traveling, but I am so grateful that you are here. Thank you for last month. Last month at this time, I think they piped me in. Cindy was in the hospital, and what a crazy thing. We were going to pipe Josh Nagy in. He's out of town. We're going to pipe him in, but the video that he sent, we can't get it to work properly, so he says hey, and throws his support here as well.
Are you saying pop or pipe?
Pipe.
Oh, pipe.
What I say, pop? Pop? No, we say Coca-Cola. Oh, you weren't talking about that, were you? Oh, okay, you're piping. Listen, this is some things I want to say. Don't forget that 24 to double is the perfect, I guess you say, next step to what we've been doing in our discipleship for January through May. I don't know how some who don't come here on the Wednesday night group that meets here, but the Wednesday night group here was just a great time to dig in for that 5 months and really get a whole nother idea and learning that the goal is not just for us reaching somebody, but the goal is for us to make that big of an impact on somebody where they want to reach out to someone else. And that's what we want. We want generations and legacy when it comes to our church and people who know the Lord. I don't want it to stop with just me or just with my kids. I hope it goes to my grandkids, or to, and it makes its way on down the line and those type things. I always like to point out the positive. I love our Sunday morning worship. I appreciate our band members. I appreciate our tech people. Everybody that makes that happen, that greets at the door, that sets up the food, different things like that. We're appreciative so much. I love what Tyler is doing with our youth group. It's coming along as a parent. He builds some more trust with them. That group is growing and growing. Excitement. They actually got a big pool party going on tonight. That's actually why David and Michelle aren't here, because they're over there hosting it, and their home will probably never be the same. but whatever the case, though. But I'm excited. The parents are giving Tyler a chance, and he's doing a great job with those teenagers. And listen, I'm very excited. Been working with Maria, getting some ideas from our young families and stuff about how to take our children's ministry to the next level. And I'm excited for the changes coming for August. It's just going to be an incredible wow factor for our kids, and they're just going to love being here. And we just feel like just completely a total wholesale change of what we've been doing is going to happen on Sunday morning with that children's program. So we're very, very excited about steps that are being taken even now. So I want us to open up with prayer, and then we're going to get this video going, and then so we can discuss and talk, and then a few things to share. I'm going to ask Brother Jonathan if he wouldn't mind to pray for us. I love hearing Mr. Jonathan pray for us. I need a Jonathan prayer tonight. That'd be good. Let's pray.
Father, we just thank you so much. This is a wonderful time, a wonderful blessing. And we pray that you would train our thoughts, touch our hearts, show us the way tonight, Lord, to be a part of what is going on, what you're doing by your Spirit, that you have aroused in Pastor Mark and Cindy a special desire. And this desire you've been making greater and greater every year. And Lord, you have great plans. Your plans are to prosper us. Your plans are to move us and strengthen us. We have nothing to fear because you are in the lead. You are doing the things that we are so amazed at, Lord. So we just pray that you would cause us to grow tonight. Help us to be ready and willing to hear and to put it to use and to be a blessing to our brothers and sisters. And we thank you for all this wonderful food, all the good fellowship, all the fun. But Lord, help us to always be serious too about what work you've got us to do, that it would be inspired and led by you, because you are our inspiration, Lord. And we love you so much. And we praise you and give you thanks now in the holy and mighty name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen. Amen. With the lights on, is that okay with everybody? With him, right?
Vision is about finding your church's uniqueness in ministry and strength, determining God's vision for your church. So Module 1 is really designed to help you take a deep, honest look at the current condition of your church, so that you can have a clear vision stating where you need to go in the next 1 to 3 years. What are we trying to accomplish? All right, so we're going to look at the current condition of your church. We're going to talk about how to find a clear vision and talk about passion and strengths and resources to make that thing happen. And here's the key question that every church has got to get. Why should anyone come to my church? We got to be able to answer that question. We're not going to answer the question, what can I do to make my church like Daystar Church? That's totally irrelevant. We don't need 2 Daystar churches. But why does anybody want to go to your church? What's unique, what's special about your church? Because people love to follow a vision. They love it. People want to follow a vision that motivates. A lot of the times we lose people because they don't know why we're doing what we're doing. And they don't know, leaders, because we don't know. We're just doing it because we love God, because brother so-and-so asked us to do it, or for whatever reasons. But we really don't have a vision that we want to fight for. Now, different churches tonight in this room are at different places. Some of you have clearly maybe been down this path. You've talked about vision. You've pounded out a vision. You've talked, but some of you have not. And we're going to talk about some ways to determine whether or not you need a new vision statement if you don't have one. All right? This is very, very foundational. And this is really proof that we're not asking you to be like this church. We want you to find what is unique about your church. So every church and pastor has got to have a clear vision stating what you need to do in 1 to 3 years to conquer your city for Christ. This is not a maintenance program. This is about reaching more people. This is about changing your city, wherever it is you live, city, town, community. And so what vision says how we're going to do that? Now, one of the things you need to know in building a vision statement is how people's needs are processed in their mind. And for that, we're going to go to a resource called Professor Maslow's Hierarchy of Need. This is true of simply everyone. You want to compare your demographics in your community versus this little pyramid. And all the way down at the very bottom, we see physiological needs. And the idea being that you can't expect to reach the highest needs of a person until you've reached the basic needs. So things like food and clothing, and shelter and sleep and pain management, things like that. Things like when you move up to safety, these are things like, do I have shelter and security? Do I have a predictable future? Do I have order in my life? Those are the first needs. And then there's love and belonging. Things like affection. Do I have friends in my life? Is there a family that I identify with or a group that loves me? And if you have that, then they move on to things like self-esteem, like respect, admiration, self-confidence, self-worth. And then finally, you get to really where most churches start. Self-actualization. This is fulfilling my personal capacities and my potential. Am I actually reaching somewhere? Am I discovering truth? And am I creating beauty and adding value to the world? Am I promoting order and justice in the world? And here's the thing I want to get to on this. You will never meet the highest needs until you've met the basic needs. It's really important that you can't say to a person who is starving that, hey, the reason you're starving, you need to get your life together, you need to meet Jesus. Well, you're the only Jesus they're going to meet. They're not going to meet some religion until they've met someone who can really meet them where they are. And you have to, now why is this on vision night? Because you can't really build a vision until you know what you're shooting for. Who am I shooting for? And I can't think about who I'm shooting for without finding out what their needs are. Now, if you're in a poverty-stricken community, you're going to start out, your vision statement is going to have to deal with things like physiological needs, food, shelter, clothing. If you're in downtown Birmingham, right in the middle of the streets of where people are homeless, that's going to have to be where you start, right? And based on where you are and what the people are in your community, this is going to play a large part in how you develop your vision statement. So we say it like this: give me a vision to die for, and I won't miss church. I wonder why people miss church. You see, the days of motivation by guilt are gone. I would say this. I would say that the ones of you that are in this room right now, you love God enough. You are committed to God enough. You have a true, real relationship with God. Your pastor could probably guilt you into doing some things. My pastor guilted me into doing things. I do a lot of things just out of guilt. I feel like I need to do them. But you know what? The masses that we want to reach will not be motivated by guilt anymore. Things are just different now. If we're going to motivate those people, we got to give them a vision. We've got to tie into something. And I'm not just talking about lost people. Right now we're talking about a vision that is going to motivate your people to serve so that they can reach the lost. I'm talking about your own people. You know, they love God enough to maybe be a part of the church and join the church, and maybe they give a little bit. But if they're really going to change their schedule to serve, they're really going to give up their time and talent and financial treasures, they're going to have a vision. Give me a vision that will excite me, and I'll volunteer for that vision. Give me a vision that motivates me, and I'll give you money for that vision. But you got to give me something. You can't just give me, well, you know, there's nobody here this week because y'all didn't do anything. That's not vision. And people are not going to die for something like that. Guilt motivation simply does not work anymore. So vision's like strategy. It changes frequently every 2 to 3 years. The mission of the church never changes, but the vision is sort of your marching order, your clarion call of what we're trying to do. It motivates people. And I would say this: you can't find a vision without a prayer initiative around it. It really has to be a prayer initiative. If you think about Jesus, he spent 40 days and nights in the wilderness, and he was really clarifying his vision. You know, the Bible says he was driven into the wilderness by the Holy Spirit, and he came out in the power of the Holy Spirit. He comes out saying things like, the Spirit of the Lord is upon me because he's anointed me to preach good news to the poor. I mean, he came out talking vision. And so I would say when we start talking about what is our vision, we want to clarify our vision, it must be covered in prayer. You got to be praying about that thing. You got to be telling people, we want to clarify what we're here for. We want to understand and unite around that vision, and we need people to pray about that vision. Hopefully you've already got prayer ministries in place. We're going to talk a lot more about how to do that as the process unfolds. But whatever prayer ministry you have, start them praying about the vision today. So let's talk about just how to develop our own vision statement. How do we develop our own vision statement? First of all, don't just steal one off of a cool church website. Don't just read a cool book and that is the coolest vision statement. Let's just do that. You want your people to rally around it, all right? You want your people to buy into it. And I don't support what's yours, but I do support what's mine, right? And I will support what's ours. But I'm going to have a hard time, you're going to have a hard time getting me to support what is yours. And so that's why it's so important that we spend enough time working on our vision statement. So let me make this real clear. We're going to unveil one big idea a month. You can't fully implement these one big ideas a month. I don't mean that, next month we're going to get in here and we're going to talk about the leadership structure of the church. All right? The idea that you're going to come back and have a vision statement that the whole church is now rallied around 4 weeks from now, that's just not going to happen. All right? And then that 4 weeks after that, you're going to have a whole new structure in your church. Again, it's not going to happen. All right? So what we do is in year one, we just start talking about it. We get your key leaders to get their picture and get their head around it. And then in year two, after you've already started putting some of these ministries in place, and some of it is starting to work. What you're going to do, you're going to start some of the most vital ministries with just whoever is willing to do it. People like you, willing to do it. You don't wake up in the morning necessarily, and it's not your calling to put out parking lot cones or welcome people at the front door, but you love God and you love your church enough to help get it off the ground, right? So that's kind of what year one does. We get some things off the ground. Year two, we really are going to start flowing in this thing. You're going to identify who really has the gift and calling for parking lot ministry, children's ministry, worship ministry, and then we bring them in and we train them. Again, we're not going to train them how to do our style, but we're going to train them to have a biblically based team that functions in any style. All right? So I'll try to say that more often because I don't want you to just run crazy. In fact, I remember Mark over here from Tuscaloosa. They kind of ran crazy. They did more than they were supposed to, and I kept trying to pull the reins back on them, but they just wouldn't pull back. They just went wide open anyways. But a lot of times that can get you into trouble. Mark's a good leader, and he was able to, kind of pull people in a direction in a hurry, maybe faster than he should have. But I don't want you to get by any means think that, we're going to talk about one thing tonight and you got 30 days to make it happen in your church because, we got a whole new thing to talk about. You want to always think cruise ship, not speedboat. I want everybody to say that with me. I'm on a cruise ship, not a speedboat. You get out there on a speedboat and you can turn 180 degrees in 2 seconds and it's fine, unless you're pulling your kid behind. I've done that too. You can turn around real fast, everybody's fine. Everybody can grab a hold and you can turn 180 degrees. You get on a cruise ship and you try to turn that thing 180 degrees at wide open speed, that thing's going to dump over, you're going to lose a lot of people. All right? We don't want that to happen. And let me say this also. We're going to lay out what ministries you should start working on in order on purpose. As you're leaving tonight, I would encourage you to go out in our lobby and turn right down that first hallway, and you see our whole church is structured in 7 teams. We're going to show you how to make those 7 teams happen. But we're not going to teach them 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. We're going to teach them in a specific order so that, number one, they're going to be the easiest for you to get off the ground first. And number two, they're going to be the ones that get the most bang for your buck. And here's why. People don't like change. People are going to fight you for change. And it's a PR battle. It's a PR battle. There are people who do not like the change we have made in this church, but somehow through the grace of God, we were able to see some progress and some real growth by the time our sort of stick in the mud group recognized, they turned around and said, there's 100 more people here, what happened? It's kind of too late to say, the pastor's full of the devil at that point, And that's kind of the way it worked out. I mean, it just grew so fast. And here's Roger Ham. He's a member of our church. He's been with us from the whole time, and he's a great resource to ask any questions to. And Roger was there. He knows there's some people that, our picture of where we were going was not their picture of where we were going, but we had some great success so quickly that they just turned around and said, well, this is awesome. It's hard to fight this. So I don't want you to go out and say, well, for instance, small groups is going to be one of the last things we teach. Please don't skip over and say, well, we're doing good on this and we're doing good on that. We're going to really do small groups. Because this whole thing is designed with a real purpose in mind. All right? And it's not only just teaching you what you need to know, but it's teaching you what you need to know when you know it so you can fight the PR battle that sometimes you have with people anytime you try to change anything. Now, one of the things I told you is that one of the real arguments that we have against this model is that they're trying to put a corporate model in our church. This is a corporate model in our church, They're trying to put a business model in the church. Why don't we have the godly model? I'm going to tell you, your church probably already has a corporate model. I mean, that's really the way the church is run right now. You have a board of directors, call it council, deacon board, elders board, or board of directors in some churches. And then you have a CEO called pastor, right? And then you have an election process where you elect your representative, to be in charge of whatever, and the seniors get behind this guy and the people with teenagers get behind this guy, and you have this whole thing set up where they vote in somebody, right? And you can vote somebody off that board of directors if he doesn't get what you want, and then, if the preacher's not doing, if our hired hand is not doing what we want him to do, then, we get the CEO and we send him out and we hire us a new CEO. That's a corporate model, folks. That's a corporate model. But the New Testament model says that God appointed leaders with the gifts of apostle, prophet, evangelist, pastor, and teacher, and that those people then equip saints to do the work of the ministry. what we've done in our corporate model at America Church is the saints have hired leadership to do the work of the ministry. And what's supposed to happen is God appoints leadership to equip saints to do the work of the ministry. That was good enough for me to say it again. All right? Our corporate Western model of ministry is the saints hire leadership to do the work of the ministry. The New Testament says God appoints leadership to equip saints to do the work of the ministry. That's that. If I can tell it to you in a nutshell, what this thing's about, we're going to show you a lot of do's and don'ts, a lot of how to build a good team, how to make it do better. But the skeleton of the thing is getting out of that Western corporate democratic mindset that the church has and getting back to what Jesus said he wanted his church to be. Leadership equipped to mentor others to do the ministry. And that's what we're talking about doing. All right? I don't know how I got on that rabbit trail, but we're talking about vision statement. All right? You're going to use people. You're going to use demographics. Let's move on. Demographics can help you know who you can reach and at what level you'll be able to reach them. I kind of said that already. Remember on Maslow's hierarchy of needs, if you've got people who don't even know how to eat, you can't be necessarily building your church on Financial Peace University small group studies. You know what I'm saying? If they're starving, they don't need to know where to invest their money right now. You got to know the demographics before you build your purpose statement. So here's the things you want to analyze: household size and income, the population growth for your community, the age distribution. How many know that the age distribution is very important? If you live in a community where everybody in your community is younger and there's a real growth of young, small families, or families with small children, how important is children's ministry in your vision statement? Very important, isn't it? Very important. Well, we don't need children's ministry. We don't have many children. I'd say the other way around. We don't have many children, therefore, we need lots of children's ministry. Especially if you live in a community where there's a lot of young families. This is going to affect how you develop your vision statement. The industry of labor, if you're in a very white-collar community, all right? Let me just say this. If you live in a very white-collar community, and when I come in your church, you got homemade stalls in the bathroom, that's a problem. If your stall's made out of 2x4 and plywood, and you're in a white-collar community, they're not going to stay with you. This is one of those times where you wonder if I know what I'm talking about. Because here's the deal. Here's when you spit out what I say. When you say, well, bless God, it should not matter between, it ought to be the Spirit of God. Well, you know what? It ought to be. But at last time I checked, we're after lost people who got the spirit of the devil in them, not the Spirit of God. That's us insiders thinking like an insider. When we say things like, well, we don't have to have new children's ministry equipment. We'll just get some that's donated from somewhere else and clean it up because, I don't mind. It ain't about you. I would just go ahead and venture to say that everybody in this room is already as saved as Billy Graham. You cannot get any more saved. If you're saved and you know it, say amen. Okay, so you know what? I'm not even worried about you anymore. You are as saved as you can get. You cannot get any more saved than you are right now. I mean, you just can't get any more saved than you are right now. We have people from all backgrounds in our church. We have some Baptists that are eternal security people. We have some Pentecostals that are whatever they are, different. And people ask questions all the time about, do you believe in once saved, always saved? And I always say, I'm after the never been saved. I don't have time to argue about all these debates. I'm after the never have been saved, right? And the never have been saved have got some things about them that I know because I've been studying, I've been learning them for a long time. And so I'm going to build my church focused on them. One of the most, if you've never seen it, pastors or members, you should do it. But it's a book's been out a long time, Rick Warren's book, Purpose-Driven Church. I don't mean purpose-driven life, but the purpose-driven church. The first book, Roger read it with me. I took it to my leadership council when I had no staff. Gave them all that book. And in that book, he talked about Saddleback Sam. His community, Saddleback Church. He said, we've got a picture of Saddleback Sam. We know what he looks like. I know what he eats. I know what his job is. I know how many kids he's got. I know everything. I know how much income he has. And I'm going to build a church that will reach Saddleback Sam. We sat down after I read that book. I remember Roger and I said, let's figure out who Daystar Dan is. Let's figure him out. Let's look around. He's largely blue collar. We understand that he's a no-nonsense kind of guy. We built a profile of who that guy was. and who his wife was and what their kids looked like and what they did for a living. And we built a church that would reach out to them. All right? You know, I'll be honest with you. See, here's one of the things that a lot of pastors fail in. You start to see some church growth, and then you go and build a facility that is your dream. This is not my dream. We've got a master plan that is to build 2 more big buildings bigger than this one. When that's built, it won't be my dream. I'm not here to build my dream. I'm here to reach Daystar Dan. That's it. That's it. It's not about me. It's not about building my dream, right? You got to know who you're looking for. As a pastor, you got to know who you're preaching to. And it's always about that lost person. So his industry makes a difference. His education makes a difference. Why would his travel time to work matter to you? Anybody want to know? His schedule. Can you build something that works for this guy? How about also, if you know that you've got a bunch of people, for instance, we have a bunch of people in Cullman County who travel to Birmingham to work. So I know that that group of people who are willing to travel 45 minutes to work, probably on Sunday, they're going to be willing to travel 45 minutes to church. I have a lot of people who will do that. So our mission statement includes an opportunity, and our process includes an opportunity to do small groups in way out locations. People out in Addison, people in Holly Pond go to our church, people in Decatur, people in Gardendale. We have small groups that meet all over because we recognize our people are willing to drive in for weekend worship, so we want to do something in their community that will help them change their community around them. All right? So demographics are very, very important. You start with where your population density is in your town. This is Cullman right here. And this is all the dots of people in the middle of Cullman who have visited Daystar Church. The orange ones are members. The white ones are those who visited and have not joined. All right? All right, so the next thing you're going to want to do is identify the strengths that you have. Where's my church strong? What is God already blessing? Let me just say this. The teaching that you get from 24 to Double will prompt you as a pastor or leadership team to want to make a lot of changes. And that's good. Because like I said last month, the overall curve of the church, someone mentioned that a new Gallup poll said 62% of Americans will be at church this Easter. Isn't that wonderful? But they won't. They won't be at church this Easter. Another Gallup poll says that 40% of Americans were at church yesterday. But they weren't. 20% of Americans were at church. See, for years, people believed the Gallup poll. And I don't know why we as pastors know that, because pastors get lied to more than anybody else. We ought to know they're not telling the truth. You ask anybody on the street, what church do you go to? Oh, so-and-so church. Who's the pastor? Oh, yeah. People say stuff because they feel guilty about it. The truth of the matter is there are less people attending church today on a percentage basis than at any time in your life. Any time in your life. You go back to the early 1900s where there's almost 80% church attendance. And then you go all the way down to right now, when I was born, there was about 40% in church attendance. And right now, the latest numbers, there's about 20% in church attendance. And by the year 2050, 11.7% will be in church attendance. I mean, it is going like this. So the moment anybody challenges you because you're in this 24 to double process, and your church says, I don't know why we have to change anything. Everything's going good. That's like a person on the Titanic saying, I don't know why you guys want to bail water. This is fine. It's not fine. It's not fine. Your grandchildren are going to go to school where 9 out of 10 people don't go to church. Is that really what you want? No, it's not. Something has to change. And I'm not talking about rearranging chairs on the deck of the Titanic, just fixing this. I'm talking about wholesale change where we focus on lost people and we don't just focus on ourselves. All right, now, all that to say this. Even though we're changing a lot of things, we don't want to change just for the sake of change. Because change is stressful and it's going to be difficult on your church. So we don't want to reinvent the wheel. If God is already blessing something, let's key in on that and let's just blow that thing up. All right? Which ministry in the church is bringing in the most guests? We're going to use that to grow our church. See, right now, you probably got a ministry in the church. Maybe children's ministry, youth ministry, maybe the choir. There's something where you're doing some events where you get the most visitors. And you get so excited on that special day. And 1 month later, people are standing around in the lobby after church and they're going, where did all those people go? If you know what I'm talking about, say amen. We've had big crowds before, but where are they? All right? We're going to make those big events. We're not going to throw those away. We're not going to say that's no good and we got to change everything. We're going to use that as a true growth engine for the church and a true discipleship model for the church. And so you want to identify what is strong in your church. Through which ministries have people come to your church over the last 2 months? That's going to be a part of that vision statement. Now, vision's made up of 3 things. Passion is one of those things. It's important for you to find that out. What you're best at is one of those things. And what is the resource engine is another. Now, I want you to look at this real closely. I'm going to just kind of want to point some things out. All right, what we're passionate about. We understand that. This is why you do your ministry, right? Some of you are in children's ministry and you are crazy about it. You love it. Keeps you up at night. You can't help but think about it, right? Some of you, if they say children's ministry, you would deny the cross to keep from having to do children. I understand. It's not your passion, right? But you know your passion. All right? And then you should know also, what are we great at? What is our church great at? When visitors come to our church and they say nice things, what do they say? Now, let me just go and give you a clue. Visitors are almost never going to tell you what you stink at. Visitors are always going to tell you. That's one of the hardest things for pastors to understand. Every visitor loves the church and never comes back. What is going on? That's just their nature. They're going to tell you how awesome it is, and they're not going to tell you what stinks. All right? But you ought to know what you're awesome at. If everybody that comes to your church says, man, that choir is amazing. That pastor's awesome. That whatever. You ought to know what you're great at. You also ought to know what your church will rally to. What are they passionate about? Man, if we have this event, nobody shows up. But if we do this, everybody comes out. Why? Because that's what they're passionate about. So you ought to be able to identify that. And then this is a little bit harder. Where is value added to the church? What events actually have made the church grow both financially and numerically? In other words, what's the resource engine of our church? Now, when you take those 3 things, Jim Collins in his book, it's a business book, Good to Great, said that you got to find, he calls this the hedgehog principle. Anybody ever read the book, Good to Great? Some of you guys have. He calls it the hedgehog principle. He says that little tiny spot right there is where you got to be working on. That's where your vision ought to be. Where your church's passion overlaps what you're best at and overlaps what actually grows the church's finances and attendance. Now, that's going to take a lot of thinking. You can see right now you're going, what is that? And that's good. That's good. You really, really got to think hard. Got to be a lot of discussions to decide what is only that. Now, see, here's where we mess up. Most of us, we just do this. That's all we do. Whatever we're passionate about. We get up, I love to do it, I'm excited about it, therefore it must be God's will, and I'll just do this. And that's very, very noble and very honest, right? And then sometimes we'll overlap it with what we're best at, and I appreciate that. Don't you love it when a person who is motivated to sing actually can sing? Now, I really appreciate that. Thanks. Because sometimes they're motivated to sing and they cannot sing at all. And I'm not going to meddle right now, but if you got somebody who's motivated to sing and can't sing and they're singing, that's what you stink at, and that's why they don't come back. I'll tell you right now, you don't get to sing or play an instrument at Daystar if you stink. This is not amateur hour. I'm up here telling the greatest story ever told. The story of Jesus Christ through singing and through preaching and through love and acceptance. All the things. And there's no way I'm going to let some clown up here who thinks they're called to sing and they don't have any talent ruin the whole weekend. Not going. Well, Pastor, that's very rude. Really? Because the one who thinks they can sing are already as saved as Billy Graham. I'm trying to get the one who can't stand that squelchy voice you got on the stage, who's lost. So really, who's being rude and who's being missional? I'm the one being missional because I'm getting the missional problem off the stage for 2 reasons. so that she can really find what she's called to do and really start adding to the kingdom, and so that the lost person can enjoy our presentation of the gospel and have their life changed. And I'm excited about me, whether y'all are or not. I'm liking this. This is true. Am I right? It's true. That's hard to make. Somebody's got to make those hard decisions. Please don't make your pastor make that decision. I'm being honest. Now, I'll make that decision, but he shouldn't have to make that decision. Someone else should. No one wants to sit and listen to the pastor preach after he had to reprimand them. It's just hard for him to do that. That's why he needs leaders around him. That's why God put Aaron with Moses. There's always got to be somebody to come alongside him to be able to do that. And sometimes the pastor just goes up to him and says, hey, Roger, straighten this person out for me and don't tell him I told you to. And Roger will do that. And Roger has less friends because of that. And he's okay with that. Am I right? I mean, that's because it's not about him being the most popular guy in Coleman County. It's just not what it's about. It's about doing whatever we got to do to present the gospel in the most effective way so that the most number of people can be saved. That's it. There's nothing else that matters. Who gets to sit where, whether or not it's cold or hot, if it's too loud or too soft, doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. You're already as saved as Billy Graham. It's the one who's not here yet that I'm concerned with. All right? So we're going to have to take a lot of things that we're very passionate about and say, that's great, but we're not great at that. And a few things that we're passionate about and we're pretty good at, but really is not producing for us. There's a church in Tennessee, New Hope Church. Good little church, newhopeforall.com. We've been working with that church. That's the host church for our 24 to double site in Tennessee. And one of the things they did, they were very passionate about and very good at, was they had a Christmas program that would blow your mind. They're in Sevierville, Tennessee. They have a lot of people who are in performing arts who are members of their church, right? Because you know up there in Gatlinburg, there's a lot of musicians, a lot of performing arts. They do an awesome Christmas production. Churches come from, they did it for 2 weeks in a row. They do it on like Thursday, Friday, and Saturday night, 2 weeks in a row. Thousands of people would come. Thousands of people. All he wanted to do when he started out this program, the church is not growing, it actually was in decline at the time. All he wanted to do is tell me about that. Jerry, you just got to, you got to come see this thing. You got to come. I said, well, when are you having it? Well, it's great. We're having it on Thursday, Friday, and Saturday, and that way you can come. And I said, well, there's no reason to do that, really. Oh, man, it's like you slapped him in the face with a bucket of cold water. Because his church is really passionate about it, and they're really great at it. But you know what? It was just a concert for members of other churches to come and enjoy at Christmas. And it added no value to the mission of the church. I said, well, Tom, just tell me, what is the mission of your church? If the mission of your church is to inspire members of other churches, then by all means you should do that. Because it adds value to that mission. But if the mission of your church is for your local church to reach more lost people and to grow the kingdom of God, then this thing's got to go. That was one of the hardest things for that church. And he had to get up. He couldn't just pull the plug. He had to get up and preach vision, mission, purpose. Explain to them why we're doing what we're doing. Hey, guys, let me tell you, the people who are against changing your church are good people. Most of the time, they're very good people. The reason they're so adamant about it is because they too are passionate about some things. They just are not informed. They just don't know yet. And I'll just go ahead and tell you, you guys are coming here, you're getting teaching and training. You're hearing me share it straight out of my heart. You see the testimony of what it's done for this church. You're getting something that those others are not getting. You can't expect them to be on board with you. You've gotten something they haven't gotten. All right? So we got to be patient with people like that. We can't just throw them out the back door, all right? We've got to be patient. We got to be gentle with them. But the end result has got to be, and I'll just say this and move on, this tiny little place in the middle is the destiny of your church. Not just everything we're passionate about, not even just everything we're great at, but what actually produces value to the cause of our ministry. It'll also produce economic results. It'll also help the church to fund its ministry. All right, now, simple church process. I got to hurry. I've been talking too long. I would encourage everybody in the room to read the book, Simple Church. If you've read that book, would you raise your hand, Simple Church? Great, fantastic. Read it again now. Read it again. Lance just got through reading it for the, how many times, Lance? 6th time he just read the book, all right? And he came back in and demanded all our staff read it again. And we don't like to read it again as much as he does. He's into double reading stuff, right? I don't read a lot of books twice, but I have read Simple Church twice. He just read it again. We read it for the first time 3.5 years ago, revolutionized our church. And Lance has been rereading it and telling us how we need to change the church more. Because here's the thing. Churches, by their very nature, are very complicated. It's really, really hard for newcomers, particularly lost people from a non-church background, to understand what in the world you people are doing. They have no clue. Now, here's the problem. We're all insiders. We've been insiders for so long, we know all kind of stuff. We know that you sing the first and the second and the fourth verse of every song. Got poor newcomers on the 3rd verse and don't know what happened. You know what I'm saying? Who is the poor sap who wrote all those 3rd verses that we never sing? You know, we know a million things like that, and newcomers just don't get it. That's why I hope you get newcomers. I hope you get the most messed up newcomer to come to 24 to Dublin, because that's your best resource. They're going to look around and tell you what doesn't make sense to them, right? You need people who are at least, I don't mean they're necessarily leaders in your church, but at least they sit in on the leadership team, people that are more familiar with a bar than they are your local church. I like it when I say stuff like that. See, the reason you're not sure about that is because we build our church for people just like us. That's why people don't join, and when they do join, they join from another church. And guess what? When they come from another church, they come because there were problems in that other church, and they bring them with them. Man, when you win lost people, it is so awesome. They don't know what's right or wrong, you know. Pulled up to the church a while back. This lost guy's out there directing in traffic, you know. I mean, he's saved. He just recently got saved. And he's smoking a cigarette. I was like, guy. I went to the head of the ushers. I said, hey, man, dude out there on the golf carts driving people up the hill with a cigarette in his mouth. We got to get on that, you know. But it was so wonderful. It was so wonderful that, I mean, it was just easy for him. It was like, oh, you can't smoke? What's the deal? Well, you know, your body's a temple of the Holy Spirit. We're going to work on that, and, you know, and then he said, well, why are y'all fat then? And I said, well, we're working on that with some others. But, you know, when you get people who are lost, they are a great resource. And you want to talk to those people. We'll bring people who are not church members to our creative sermon workshops sometimes, or are new to the church, just to help them talk to us. I'll say, well, I want to preach about the cross, and they'll tell me, well, this is what I don't understand about the cross. What's the whole affinity with the blood? And all that stuff will help me to understand my target market, because, guys, I got saved at the bedside of my sister's bed when my mother was leading evening devotions when I was 6 years old. I don't really know a lot about all these people who have crack rock problems and smoke dope, and, you know, or I don't understand that. And these ladies who come in here who their husband had been slapping them around. My dad was the greatest man I ever met. I don't know that kind of stuff. So I've got to have a resource of people who do. Does that make any sense? Can't just build my church around people who look like me. Those people have a hard time getting on board with our church because it doesn't make sense for them. So we want to make the church really simple. So the vision statement has got to support the purpose and the process statement. Now, that's really confusing, and if you have questions, I'll answer it later. But really, it'd be great if you could have a statement that said what your vision is, and it also told the world what your purpose for a church is, and it also told your members what the process is for being a part of your church. Now, I'm not going to explain that completely, but if you'll read Simple Church, it will. All right? Go read that book, Simple Church. And then your programs are placed strategically along the process to create alignment. See, a lot of churches went to some vision casting workshop 8 years ago, wrote a vision statement, put it somewhere in a file drawer, and nothing that they do actually supports the vision statement. But when the purpose and the process, your activities actually are in alignment with that purpose statement, then you get momentum. Momentum is a wonderful thing. Now, we created this graphically, Lance did, to show you what a purpose and process statement is when you merge it together. In Simple Church, They say there's three things that are important in a church, and it's to love God, love people, and serve the world. And they actually say that's not just a purpose statement. Purpose, that's our purpose. That's why we're here. We want to love God, we want to love people, and we want to serve the world. It's also a process statement. And so it says to everybody in the church, you ought to get on the process. And the first step in your process is to love God. The second step in your process is to love what? People. And the third step in your process is what? Serve the world. All right, and so we've graphically included ways to love God. How do we do that? We're faithful in worship. We experience God through salvation. We're baptized, and we have a consistent prayer life. You see, that's the first step. And you can graphically tell people, you can explain to people, that's the first step of your process through our church. Are those things going on in your life? Well, then wonderful. And the next step you need to do is not just love God, you got to love people. You know, some people say, well, I really love God, but I don't like to go to church because I don't like people. That's kind of like me saying, you know, I really like you, but your kids get on my nerves. We're not going to be friends, are we? Right? If I like you, but I can't stand your kids, we're probably not going to be friends. I know what you're thinking. I don't like my kids either. But, you know, by and large, if somebody's talking bad about your kids, you're not going to be friends with them. Well, in the same way, the Bible says it's impossible to love God in heaven if you don't love God's children on the earth. That's exactly right. So the second step in the process of the church is to learn how to love people. That means joining a small group of some kind. For us, we have these things called freedom classes. We have retreat settings, and we have service projects that we do in small group settings, and that's how you learn how to love people. You get connected with a common goal. And then the third step is to serve the world. So everybody who serves through the ministry of this church, we call the dream team. We teach how to give generously. That's one of the ways you serve the world. We have things called leadership advances that leaders in our highest level can be a part of, and we want everybody to be a part of a mission team. Now, this will be completely different for your church, but it would be wonderful if you could develop a vision statement. It's also a mission statement and a purpose statement all rolled into one. It's your purpose, but it also is a process for you. And again, I don't really, if you ask questions about this later, I probably won't answer real good. All these different mission statement, vision statement, purpose statement, process statement, all that stuff is kind of like a cloud for me. What I want to do is find simple words that express who our church is and simple steps that people can go through. Does that make sense? And I don't care what you call it, vision, purpose, process, whatever, but it's got to be simple enough for people to get it. Before we read the book Simple Church, I knew that we needed to have a purpose statement, and it needed to explain who we are, and people needed to memorize it. So we wrote a purpose statement. We thought about it, we prayed about it, we got somewhere on a retreat, and I said, everybody needs to memorize it. And I think I was the only one that memorized it in our whole church, maybe me and one more. And here was the purpose statement. We wrote it 6 years ago, and I still remember. Daystar Church is a caring community that invites you to experience lifelong transformation through Jesus Christ. That's beautiful, isn't it? I'm the only one that knew it. It's just too detailed, too complicated. It didn't really take you anywhere. It's beautiful words, but it didn't really explain a whole lot to you. So now our new purpose statement that we wrote and have embraced is just this one: real love now. It's our vision, it's our purpose, and it's our process. And if I can just take you back to this, for us, real is about getting real before God, being honest about what's right and wrong in your life. And it's all those things in that first column right there. Love is just like loving people. And now is we believe that you need to serve God right now. All right? So these are words that describe who we are and tell people a little bit about our church, but they also, once you get on board here at Daystar, we can explain to you the 3 steps that you ought to take. Now, it took a long time for that. Our leadership team got together, we prayed about it, we argued about it. I mean, we just really threw our heart out there, and we came up with that. It's not something that you do really flippantly or easily, but you really put a lot of effort and energy into it. So here's some exercises you can take. I promise, guys, we're on the home stretch. List your church's core values. How can the vision statement be written without violating the core values? What core values of your church will the vision statement encourage? And how will the vision change the way your church functions? Get your leadership team together, work on that. If you're not as committed to maintaining the vision as you are to casting it, your efforts will wane, your people and the vision will become frustrated. Just coming in here and having these great ideas about what we want to do and then letting church just keep doing its own thing is not truly vision. Now, you cannot overstate the vision. Rick Warren says that a vision must be restated to the church, to the leadership, to whoever it is you want on board with the vision every 30 days. That's why at Daystar, now as I mentioned, we're in the middle of a redesign of our set. But this Real Love Now is what was right behind here for the last year. Real Love Now. We've got it on t-shirts, we got it on billboards around town, we've got it everywhere. Real Love Now. And people understand what that is and what it means for us. You overstate it enough. I was listening to a podcast of Perry Noble's actually last week. And he said people won't champion change that they don't understand. I've already said this, but you got to be patient with people. You got to help them to understand the change, why we're making the changes, and you got to state this vision over and over and over again. So ask yourself these questions if you already have a vision statement. You want to reevaluate that vision statement and ask the questions. Would a new vision statement encourage more of our church to be involved? Would a new vision statement create excitement about the church? Think about a shop that you no longer use. Why do you no longer shop there? Maybe it's because your likes and your dislikes have changed. Maybe it's because your schedule has changed and they no longer do what meets your schedule. Maybe your needs have changed. Well, ask yourself the question, how long have you had that same vision statement for your church and have others changed in that meantime? Maybe you need to change the way you reach out to people. Now think about the new store that you do like. Why do you shop there? Maybe they rebranded themselves. They changed things. You know that in a car lot, if they're not selling cars, you know what they'll do? They'll just get in there and they'll move all the cars around. They literally will do that every month at a car lot. Some every week. Just so that when you drive by, if there was a Chevy Impala sitting there and it didn't motivate you at all, there might be a Kia Optima sitting there next week, just because they want you to think something's happening around there. And sometimes change, just the sake of change and promoting something exciting, gets people on board again. When new guests come in and need to be involved, is a new statement more likely to involve those people? Well, if it is, list some of those people and ask them, what can we do to make this vision statement better? Number 6, has the excitement for the existing vision statement dwindled? Number 7, would a new vision statement encourage the congregation? Again, I don't know the answer to that. Your church, your leadership team will have to answer that. The best vision statement will build on the previous vision statement, but it'll be different enough to cause excitement. For instance, if your church really rallied behind a vision statement that it was about small groups, you can't have a new vision statement that throws away small groups. It's not smart, all right? So we're not trying to throw the baby out with the bathwater. It's always important for the pastor and leaders of the church to identify several reasons why a person would attend their church rather than any other church. Ask yourself that question. Why should they come to this church and not the church down the road? A grave mistake many churches will do is see another church down the road that is being successful and try to mimic their success and say, we're just as good as that church down the road. That's not what you're called to do. Do something that is unique about your church that someone will connect with in your church. It doesn't matter. The church down the street may be 10 times bigger than yours. They may have certain aspects of their church 10 times better than yours. But you do something that meets the needs of a niche of people. Do that well. Promote that thing. And God will bless that thing. Here's exercise 2. These reasons should not apply to or be able to be used by any other church. This is a good leadership exercise. List 10 reasons why people should attend your church. Your church. So to create a vision statement, you want to consider core values, reevaluate your current mission statement, consider what makes your church special, and answer the question, how will you conquer your city? So, again, folks, buy-in is huge. I recently heard also in that podcast, Perry Noble said, people don't like to be driven, but they like to be led. So you want to get buy-in. You want to get people on board. You don't want to tell people this is our new vision statement. You want to get tremendous buy-in. Almost done. Stay with me. Is everybody with me? Is everybody on your row with me? Look down the row. See if you can find somebody who's not with me. If they're not, pinch them real lightly. Just pinch them somewhere. Appropriate location. All right, you got it? If you're not into pinching, stick your finger in your mouth, get it good and wet, stick that in their ear or nose, whatever. Okay. Just don't put it back in your mouth. How many of you are familiar with the term branding? Raise your hand. Branding. Not branding a cow now. Branding. Branding your church. It's often necessary to rename the church or to create a new brand identity. You don't have to rename the church to have a new brand. To create a new brand, you want to consider the mission and the vision of the church and the culture and the style of the church. And you want to work with a graphic artist to create your new brand. Let's do a little test to see how good these people have done on branding. Top left, what's that brand?
Nike.
Top right?
Apple.
Bottom left?
Pepsi.
Bottom right?
McDonald's.
Man, so they are awesome at branding. You didn't even have the name there, but you know the brand. You see what I'm talking about? You want your church to be branded just that well, not necessarily around the world, but in your community. Here's some good brands. Church on the Move. You ever seen Church on the Move? Have a really cool logo there, and you can see sort of their brand. Granger Community Church. If I see this little round thing right there, I don't even have to see Granger Community. I already know what that church is because they're branded very powerfully. All right, let's take a test. Top left, what's that brand? Southern Baptist, that's right. We got one person who knew that was the Southern Baptist Church. What's the one in the middle? Methodist Church. Now, what does that tell me already? Southern Baptists are 4 times larger than the Methodist Church. But who's done a better job at branding? Methodist Church. Bam. What's the top right? That's the Church of God. What does that tell me? Y'all are Church of God. Let's see if you can do. These are a couple churches brand, and I've taken their name off. And the next one I'm going to show you, what I did is I checked on a couple churches just today, and I Googled their name only. I just put their name only to see if their logo would come up under Google Pictures, to see if their logo would come up, just to see. And I don't know if you'll catch these logos or not. But what's the one on the left? You know that church? Anybody? Elevation, that's it exactly. They've done a great job of nationwide marketing their brand. All right, does anybody know the one on the right? They've done better than Elevation Church. Okay, maybe not. But we were, I did our church just like I did Elevation. And sure enough, you could see our logo out there. And so even though Elevation and Daystar are not church logos or brands you know around the world, you will know them in their community very easily. And you want to have some kind of a logo that brands you specifically in your church. All right? So I'm gonna stop right there, give you a picture of where we're going next month, and then we're going to do question and answer. Next month's going to be Module 2, and it's going to be very fun. If you have any stick in the mud that you think might be on might want to come on board, but might not, this is the one. I'm going to explain some really cool stuff. Developing laity involvement. Realizing that your church grows by the ratio of laity involvement. And I'm going to show you your church's leadership model next month. I bet you it's either number 1, the staff-run church model, or it's number 2, the desperate volunteer model, or it's number 3, the chaos model. I bet you it is. You just come and see, and if it's not, I'll give you free coffee, all right? Even if it is, you get free coffee, all right? But then number 4, we're going to show you God-Christ model, which is the team approach, all right? We're also going to show you how to put people in the right place, and we're going to break down this passion and interest survey and how you can use that in your church. And you'll start not wholesale testing everyone, but just testing your leaders in your church.
Hey, a couple things that we're going to discuss here. Look at a couple of things. We make our way through it. Before I forget, though, 2 things. Number 1, has anybody still not filled out your gift survey? If you're here with us and still haven't filled it, we want to pass it out to you. You want one? You want one? Oh, okay. Pass these down. All right, thanks. Anybody else still not doing out a gift survey?
Oh, okay.
Anybody else still not? You can do it online as well. Anybody need one? Anybody? Let me tell you, the importance of these is because of exactly what he said. We've had several people who are like, listen, I don't want to fill one out. I know where my gifted area is at. You may not be in your gifted area. You know what I'm saying? Once you get it and you get a chance to look at it, what God has equipped and gifted different people to do, just because we're comfortable or we like something, there may be an opportunity for you, the Lord open up another door for you to be in the area of your giftedness that maybe you didn't realize, or maybe just needed an extra little maybe push to maybe get you where, maybe the Lord needs you to be, because we know that these 7 teams that he's talking about, some people might be involved in one, or not just one of them, maybe 2 of them. And there may be something like I said you're passionate about, but it may not be your total gift, and your gift may need to be in the other. So this is incredibly important moving forward, as we've got to get every single person to fill one of these out. You can go online to our website, lifebridgechurch.us, and across the toolbar, you'll see Give Survey. You can do there. You can pull up the YouVersion app, and all you have to do is go where it says More, click on to Events, click on the LifeBridge Christian Church here in between. If you go down to the very bottom, you can tithe on that app, or you can fill out the Give Survey on the app. So this isn't just something that we're just wanting everybody to do. I mean, there is a computer algorithm, a process, so that we're able to put people, because there'll be a lot of people that go, listen, I just don't know where I want to serve. But there may be some of you that say, I want to do this. But then you also may have the gift for something that you don't even realize. But that's the whole key, like he's talking about, is making sure that we're all in our gifted area, okay? Very, very important. Also, too, we really need these sheets that we gave you filled out. Hopefully you've got it filled out. Turn it in before you leave so we can take it in our next leadership meeting at the end of this month. We can take it, pour through it, look at it, get some ideas, get some kind of clarification and narrow things down so we can come back and talk to you about it again next month. We know tonight we're not going to be able to figure everything out that he's talking about when it comes to vision, when it comes to mission. We just know that's not going to happen. So there are some things that we're never going to take us a little bit of time that we'll have to keep coming back to as we make our way forward. But just because we may not have something specific like what he's talking about, 3 or 4 words, 5 or 6 catchy words and a logo, doesn't mean that we still can't do ministry while we figure that out. Does that make sense? Because to be honest with you, we could sit here and argue about mission and vision for the next year. And it's hard to narrow. I would rather preach 45 minutes on a Sunday morning any day than have to give a, 1-minute communion thought. I'm just telling you, it's hard to narrow stuff down, So it's going to take us a little while to figure that out. So we want you to know that we're wide open there. But also, too, on this sheet right here, the last thing I'll tell you before we start the discussion is 3 things we'd like for you to add on if possible. If you could add on maybe what you do for a living. Secondly, your age group. You don't have to tell us your age, but tell us your age group. And then third, how far do you live from our church? You know what I'm saying? So we just want to, don't everybody's going, is he asking how old I am? No. Just tell me your general age group, whether you're, what are the breakdowns? 25 to 34, 35 to 44. I don't know how they go,
You're talking about the spiritual gift inventory, right?
No, I'm talking about on your Vision 1 module, the sheet, the handout sheet. Tonight.
We just, the one that we filled out today.
No, while you were watching the video, we gave you a handout.
Okay.
To be working on. That's what we want the 3 questions on. I'm sorry. Not your spiritual gifts. No. The handout, my bad. The handout that I gave you tonight. 3 things. What do you do for a living? Your age group, and how far do you live from church?
I thought I was taking that.
No. Yeah, we're turning that in tonight.
I did too.
That's what we want you to do. We want you to answer the questions, and while you're watching the video, answer the questions and stuff like that, and work your way through it. Let's go through it for a second. Let's go through it for a second, okay? Let me read this to you. Give me the answer. Every church and pastor must have a blank stating what you need to do in 3 years to conquer your seed for Christ. Clear vision. A clear vision, exactly. Now listen. I feel like our vision has been clear. Reach one more for Jesus. I'm just going to be honest with you. But for whatever reason, even though I think most of us, or a lot of us, raise your hand if you knew that was, or you're not going to hurt my feelings. Raise your hand if you thought you knew it. Okay, so let me tell you this. The reason why this is important is because, like he said, you can know a vision, but it doesn't mean anything if you're not living it out. You know what I mean? So it's a great thing, but I was telling the elders this past week, a couple weeks ago at our elders meeting, reach one more for Jesus is really good for us. We're the saved. But for somebody driving down the street, reach one more for Jesus means nothing to them. It means nothing to them. They're not going to come to a church that says reach one more for Jesus. They don't think they need reached. You know? I mean, but for us inside the building, it's awesome. We know that that is our duty as a disciple to reach one more for Jesus. So we're not throwing that out with the bathwater by no means, but we want to let you know that we're wide open to the thoughts and the ideas of making it clear. How do we come up with something that, you know, that focuses on what he talks about, you know, what you're passionate about, what he say, what were the 3 things? He said your process. Your resource engine, what are you best at, what you're passionate about. You know, okay, number 2, vision is like blank. Strategy. It changes frequently every 2 or 3 years, but the mission of the church never changes. So there you go. Strategy. I think what we're looking at is how do we make that vision, you know, a strategy as well. That's real clear, you know, for everybody. How do I develop a vision statement? He says start with what is that? A demographic study, and then identify your what? Strengths. Your strengths. Whenever the latest demographic that we did was last year, before, not this year, but last year before Easter, whenever we took a demographic around here. You know, when the church moved here and bought this property, there were 61 families that called between home, and I want to say, don't quote me on this, but I think it was 168 people, 148 or 168 people that called, you know, the city of between, you know, home within a 3-mile area. Whenever we were doing the outreach last year for our mail out, and then they did a demographic study of what was happening within 3 miles of our congregation was 5,000 people. Outside, just drive around and look, subdivisions, people everywhere. 5 miles outside of our church, listen carefully to me. 5 miles, an area around our church. Just get on these roads and ride around and look at all the subdivisions and houses. They're everywhere. 10,000 people within a 5-mile radius. Now, you may sit here and go, okay, all right, that's a challenge. We have 1, 2 churches in between. If you go around this road right here, you got the old Methodist church that closed down, that just got reopened for the 2nd time, closed down. Now it's reopened again. There's a Church of God. There's another church over there called Journey. When you go right down here, just right outside of our city limits, there's a church in a office park right there. If you go right up to where Jeff Long's old building used to be, just right up there, there's a church it might have closed down, it was in the back corner right there. So let's just say there's 7 or 8 churches. There's still 10,000 people within a 5-mile radius so it's not like we're competing with anybody. There's people to be reached. Plenty of people to be reached. Plenty of people to be reached in a 3-mile area. We're 4 miles from Monroe. Guess how far we are from Loganville? 4 miles. That's why we're called between. We're exactly, you know, anybody want to know how we're actually 26 miles from Athens? You know how far we are from Atlanta? 26 miles. Wow! 26 miles, yeah. But anyway, a lot of people. A lot of people that we could reach, you know, in our area. So it's one of those things that it's, there is, I know it sounds crazy to say, we don't have to worry about any other church. There's no competition. We listen, it's wide open people to be reached for the kingdom of God right near our door. A lot different whenever we first moved here. You know, so they're there. And it's just a matter of kind of figuring it out. But in the average demographic study, my understanding, you know, when they did that, is from the age of 35 to the age of 45, and medium income household, I want to say, is right around combined income about $70,000. You know, and so I didn't check on children and all that sort of stuff, but you know that 25 to 35 is a wheelhouse of kids and all that sort of stuff, you know, and you're just really getting into the earning stages after 40, probably after 45, you know, whenever you really start able to turn it on there for the next 15 or so years.
Hey,
But I
Mark,
mean, yes, sir.
you're aware of this. We bought this property from the Southern Baptist Mission Board. They had planted a church here. That just didn't click. It didn't happen. It became like the church across the street.
Exactly.
So we were able to buy this property at a very reduced rate because they wanted to continue the mission, was part of it, as well as get folks out of that debt. Which tells me they did a lot of demographics and knew what they were doing long term, and I think we're seeing the fruit of that.
Right, yep. Let's go to this next thing right here. Identify your strengths. Tell us, I don't need to write them down, you've got them on the piece of paper. Let's identify some of our strengths as a congregation.
Friendly.
Yes.
Welcoming. Caring.
Family oriented.
Family oriented.
Children oriented.
Children oriented.
Inspiring.
Say it again.
Inspiring.
Inspiring.
I would give some more direction with it to say, you're not focused on what you look like and or what you come with.
Mhm.
It doesn't matter your background.
Yeah, yeah,
So focusing in beyond just the simple words.
Sure.
Giving it a little bit more depth.
Unconditional.
Unconditional, that's right, accepting, yeah.
Lively.
Lively, yes.
Praising.
Praising, Yeah, there you go, honey. Woo, woo, woo.
We have an awesome band.
Yep, awesome band, worship team.
And you're building a ballpark to bring young kids here, maybe, you know, that would help. Growing, yeah.
Give us more strengths, a few more strengths.
Is there plywood in our restrooms?
I don't know.
Nobody says no.
Cardboard.
Make sure you're putting down on the sheet whatever you consider the strength.
Yeah, be sure to write it down.
Top three.
Don't just say it, right? We need it on the sheet of paper. Write it down so we can put these words together, because got to remember, we're going to build a mission statement together from all this. We're just going to help pull it all together so we can continue discussion each month on where we're going. I mean, I think about loving. I think about we're a very serving congregation. Listen, I don't think there's not a single person in this church that if Cindy and I were in need, I could not call you and y'all would not come and help us. I mean, I'm serious. And I know that you feel the same way. Yeah, I mean, we're a serving congregation. When we hear of a need, man, this congregation just rallies to whoever that is, in our church or outside of our church. Any other strengths? Be sure to write it down.
Pray.
Pray. We're a praying church. I agree. All right, here we go. No right or wrong answers. You know, as we go to exercise 1, but write them down if you've got them, so we can help pull us together. List your church's core values. Do you have any thought process about what a core value for us is as a congregation?
Well, some of them are going to reflect what we just said. Some of the things we said, family and responsibility, you know, prayer and such. Belief in the Lord.
God-centered. There you go. And wait a minute. Listen to what Tim just said again, Tim. Bible-centered. Listen, that's very, very true. God-centered. I'm writing these down. And of course, you write them down too. Anything else? List some of your church's core values.
Principle of grace.
Say it again.
Principles of grace.
Principles of grace. Exactly. Yeah. Well, listen. I do not believe whatsoever that we're a condemning church. I believe we're all filled full of grace. I don't know about you, but I ain't got no place to condemn anybody. You know?
I think we equip.
Equip, yes, yes. We're an equipping church.
And I think we sinned too. I think our mission initiative for our size church has been good. times better, but I think we're ready to send people out to serve.
Oh, sure, yes. I'm sorry, yes, ma'am.
I don't know if this is a core value
It's
or
core
where it
value.
would fit in, but I like that we're non-denominational. Just
Yeah.
Bible believing.
Just Bible believing church,
And
right.
don't get bogged down with
Right.
rules and regulations of a
Sure.
denomination.
Right. I mean, I agree exactly 100% what the pastor says. The older I get, the less I want to argue with anybody about theology. I just want to know, listen, if you're arguing theology, go talk to somebody else. I want to talk to you about, do you know the Lord or not? Are you saved? You know, oh my gosh, that's just, yeah, you know, a lot of time wasted on that, and then you still walk away going, oh, I don't know who was right. Who's right? I don't know. Okay, how can the core vision statement be written without violating these core values? Yeah, exactly. You got to pray about it. You got to keep it simple. Good. Write those words down. Pray about it. Keep it simple. And do not go against the core values that we just talked about. What core values of your church will the vision statement encourage? This is a simple answer. Three letters, one word. All of them. True?
Yeah.
I mean, you think about it. I mean, it could be something, I mean, not that it is, but I'm just saying that if you notice on the front of our bulletins, you know, what does it say? It says love, serve, and hope. I mean, you know, that's just something about the core value. I'm not saying that's great to be used for. I'm just saying that that's something that we have because that's what we believe in. You got to build around that. You got to love people. You got to serve people. You got to hope. You got to be inspired that whatever we go through, you know, that we can overcome it. You know, because if you're doing something right, listen carefully to me. If you're doing something right, you better believe, like he said, and doing any kind of reading, which by the way, I need to say that, Satan's going to come after you. I believe that with all my heart. And I do have the book, by the way, Simple Church and the Purpose-Driven Church. If anybody would like to borrow them, you're welcome. You're welcome to them. But anyway.
Just so you know, right behind you, that's the Simple Church example.
Yeah. And I'll say this in another minute, but East Ridge Community Church, I meet with those guys every week to write sermons together and pass on audience. You know, that their mission statement is love God, love others, reach the world. You know, I mean, some of those thought processes. So what core values of your church will the vision encourage? All of them. How will the vision change the way the church functions? What do you think about that?
It shapes everybody's thought process.
Shapes everybody's thought process. Let me tell you this. Motivation, exactly. This is the thing that I've noticed. I've had a lot of people come up to me and say, why don't we just get these 7 teams, divide them up, and start going? Let's just go. I'm ready to get on the WOW team. I'm ready to get on the shock and awe team, man. Let me get over there with the kids. And well, listen, the program's starting in a couple months. Next month, I think, lightly starts to take shape with the 7 teams. But this is the reason behind what we're doing. If you don't really have a vision and a mission, then it's just activity. And guess what happens in 6 months? We can put on a big activity. We just had family fun night back in February. The place was packed with outsiders. They never came back. We put on Trunk or Treat. Did you drive by this place last year and see Trunk or Treat? People parking out on the roads, people coming from everywhere. They didn't come back. We can pack people out here on Easter, you know, on Christmas Eve. We can do these things, you know. I mean, same thing with sports camp coming up at the end of this month. There'll be a lot of kids here. How do we get them back? So this is the thing about it. We've got to be able to, the reason why this is so important, we've got to learn why we do what we do. And then one of the things that we do, we understand what people are really needing. This is what it is. This is where we're failing. People need to have a real conversation and follow-up about the Lord's role in their life, because a lot of them don't realize that they need the Lord, or a lot of them just are keeping God at an arm's length distance because they're mad at him or been hurt, but I'll still do something because my kids will want to go to it. And
That's the main thing you just said about kids.
Yeah.
I think that with your, you know, what's it called, Bible studies or your camp, you know, that's coming up, I think today we need to really start preaching to children.
Sure.
Because adults nowadays, they're just different. From babysitting, you know, I used to babysit this little girl I used to bring here, and I kept, you know, talking to her about God, and, you know, her parents were saying how religious they are. Well, I guess it finally sunk through, and she's got her parents going to church.
If you raise the children and teens, you'll get the family here eventually.
Right, and I think, you know, and I remember Publix used to, you know, they're not really their mission, but it's to get these younger kids in here, you know, like their little carts that they have, and it's like, oh wow, let's go to, you know, let's go to Publix because they give out free cookies. That's an incentive for a child because that's the first place they go is to get a free cookie.
Right.
But I really think that we really, our mission should be really pointing at, like you said, kids. Maybe if we get some baseball players out here in the back, you know, I don't know, make them some T-shirts. But where did you come up with LifeBridge? Because that's, you know, they're talking about slogans and you know, that's a really nice logo. I mean,
Yeah, that's been there for a long time before I got here, yeah.
so that was already made up. I mean, you know, even using our logo as, you know, LifeBridge, maybe, you know, if some of these kids do come to practice, and I don't know who your core people are, but, you know, maybe get some shirts and, you know, and make little baseball player or something on it, you know, crossing over the bridge or something.
Gotcha.
To get them motivated. Oh wow, look Mom, you know, they got this here. So I really think that we really need to get out and get more, try to get kids involved.
I agree.
Because people, you know, nowadays, you know, it's in one ear and out the other.
Or even mommy friendly.
Yeah.
Right.
You know, mommy daycare, mommy, you know, something, mommy and me day. You know, like Home Depot has a thing that you can go make bird houses, you know, it's a free workshop. But that also brings them in, that's also teaching little kids, hey, let's go to Home Depot.
Sure.
But to maybe come in here and try to, I don't know how your church stays open during the summer, but maybe advertise, you know, Mommy and Me Day one day. Because, you know, or Mommy and Me Movie Day.
Sure.
You know, to bring in a movie here. Something that will motivate kids.
Yeah, write that down on your paper right there so we don't forget that.
Okay.
So we don't
But you know
forget
what I'm
that.
trying to say?
Yeah, sure.
You know, you've got a big place here and, you know, what's a free couple things of popcorn or you know, some juices or something, have a, you know, movie day with Mom, you know?
Let's move to the next section right there. Reevaluate your vision statement. We just need your total honesty as far as leadership goes. You know, would a new vision statement encourage more of the church to be involved? Let me read these questions while you think about it, and then we'll come back and we'll talk about it. Would a new vision statement create blank in the church? What did he say? Excitement in the church, all right? Think about a shop you no longer use. Why do you no longer shop there? Now think of a new store you like. Why do you shop there? When new guests come in and need to be involved, is a new vision statement more likely to involve them? And then list some of these people and ask them. Has excitement for the existing vision statement dwindled? Would a new vision statement encourage the blank? What was the blank? The congregation. Okay, so let's go back and answer these questions. Give us your thoughts. Be sure to write them down too. Would a new vision statement encourage more of your church to be involved? What do you think?
Think of this, what would you think of a new vision statement? What do you think that should be?
No, we don't want to go there yet. No, let's talk about what we're doing now.
I say yes.
Tell me.
Well, something that really caught me was his flow chart, where he said, we do everything we do to be like other people like us, or, you know, we develop a mission statement, or what I guess we're used to being around other people like-minded.
Right.
And Instead, we should focus on a mission statement that a lost person would see
Yes.
and be able to grab a hold to.
Right.
That's what I'm saying, yeah.
Instead of trying to take somebody from the church down the street and they bring their problems or, you know, I mean, whatever.
Right, yeah.
I think if it was more like, if we looked at the Maslow's hierarchy of needs and kind of really focused on what those needs are in our community and developed our vision statement around that,
Yeah,
then I think that would.
yeah, write that down, that's important, we wanna know that, yeah.
If
Yeah.
somebody on the outside saw a mission statement like that,
Sure.
it might be something they could relate to.
Right.
If somebody on the outside sees our mission statement now,
Right,
that's not something they can relate to.
right.
That's where I.
Right, yeah,
we
yeah.
grasp that,
Yeah.
not that.
Yeah, and I want you to know, now listen, now people can, Josh and I were talking about this before church, and our elders and I were talking a couple weeks ago about this. It's, when you talk about mission and vision, they can get real tricky and confusing, you know, for people, you know what I mean? Now, he uses the term like mission needs to be something that's quantified, and I always felt like the mission was actually what the Bible tells us that we ought to do, to go out and make disciples. I mean, I think it's obvious, love the Lord your God all your heart. To me, those are the things that the mission that God is calling you to do, and the vision is about every 3 years now how you're going to do it in a different way that quantifies it. But it really doesn't matter to me, is what I'm telling you. I don't know. It doesn't matter to me if you call it vision, if you call it mission. You know what I mean? It can just get all kind of hairy. But I do like what Scott's saying. If he writes that down, you know, we do know. Just think about it for a minute, just off the top of your head. You don't have to write this down. What are needs of 35 to 45-year-old families with kids? What are their needs? Child care. What else? Josh.
It's not directly on that.
Oh, what?
Continue that for a second.
Engagement.
Engagement, yes.
In today's workaday world, they need a place where character can be given.
Mm-hmm.
People can mentor and a good relationship. That's why I think youth pastors, somebody to lead teens have we really have an opportunity there.
Relationships, yes ma'am, go ahead.
You know, I'm kind of new. I mean, I've been coming a little bit longer than probably a new person, but, you know, when you go into an existing church where people have been together for 10 years or whatever, it's hard to place yourself in that.
Right.
You know, like, for me to come in, of course, I came with Tricia and Josh, and, you know, I didn't feel like isolated, but it's hard to put yourself in there because you've already got those little groups of people that you are friends with and you do things with. And, I mean, I've invited my sister many times to come, but she, you know, we went to Mansfield Baptist for like 12 years, and when we started there, it was really hard because everybody there, I mean, it's like a town out in the middle of Mars, because it's like those people are all, they're kind of going to let in. They say, you know, welcome, welcome, whatever, but I remember back when I first started, it was like maybe one person. They greet you at the door when you come in, but that was kind of it.
Sure.
And, you know, you go back week after week, you know, because it was the closest church to our house, and, you know, we wanted to be involved for many different reasons. But to put yourself in there and try to really fit in was really, really hard. So I'm looking at thinking, and I mean, I don't feel like nobody's been mean to me, but don't get me wrong, but I'm just saying an adult coming in is gonna feel, you know, really intimidated because, I mean, everybody here's really nice, but they do have their certain people that, you know, they gather with and talk to, and that's good because that's what family is. You kind of make that family to let new family in. I don't think intentionally anyone would say, oh, well, let's don't talk to her. But you kind of, you don't have anything in common really because you don't know anybody.
Yeah, well, it's like this. Go ahead. Say it again, Betty.
Being inclusive.
Right.
Including people in
Yeah.
your.
Well, one of the hardest things is what Jeannie said earlier. She said she listed it as a core strength, you know, being a family. Well, church being a family, that's pretty important, but it sure can be a detriment too. You know, it's a really fine line. Families still can grow.
Come in, like in that age group you're talking, I mean, if those adults don't feel really welcome, people are kind of selfish nowadays. They don't care if their kids are gonna like it or not. If they don't like it, they're gonna not come or go because people and they do need daycare. And when, you know, when Alyssa, my granddaughter, was coming, I'll be real honest, I mean, I really started doing the youth thing because I wanted her to come.
Sure.
And my daughter come up with every excuse in the world, you know. I'm tired, it's far, da-da-da. I said, just bring her, you know, just bring her and drop her out if you don't want to come, and, you know, you don't have to cook. I'll bring food, and then she can eat there. And she did it a while, you know, and then she, you know, started going somewhere with her friend, and that was okay. But it was like, if you can, like, she needed somebody to take care of her kid for the night and feed her. So, and a lot of parents may do that, and when, you know, Eli and them, I said, well, maybe if parents will just, you know, if they can get the word out and say, well, I'm tired, I can at least drop my kid off there and they get fed.
Food, sure.
You know, and then maybe the kids will say something to get their parents to come, but you gotta start somewhere with something that they need, just appealing to them to get them in the door. But the adult part of it, it is hard when you come in to a group that's very loving and affectionate, but it's their family, you know?
There's still cliques.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you still have to be very, very careful.
Yes.
Was it Bud, Heather? Yeah.
Yeah, there is one thing that we all do have in common, whether we're new or we're just getting out of our car and walking up to the front of this, is we all have a name.
Yeah.
And I'm going to tell you a very brief story. It's a good story, but it's a long one, but I'll make it short. Rosemary and I, about a month ago, we went to Florida to visit a pastor friend at their church, and it's all seniors. And that was kind of inviting. There were no kids around. But I say that lovingly. But the first thing we had to do was put a name tag on. In a half an hour before church, I'm standing here talking with this guy, and I look at his name tag, and it says Bob Chase, USMC. It was my drill instructor from 48 years ago who I despised in the Marine Corps. 48 years. And it was because he didn't remember me because he did thousands of men to make them Marines, boys to make them Marines. But that name tag, I'll never forget it. And I posted it. And I think we need to do that. That's kind of like a key to that person. People don't mind. I'm not saying because I'm an elder I need a gold-plated one. No, I just need a slap on one that says Bud. That'll do. And I think that's a gesture to a new person. We care. We want your name.
Yeah.
The two ladies on the end here, you've been here for a long, long time.
You probably don't even know my name.
I don't even know the initials to your name. Yeah, and that's horrible.
Yes, it is, and that's true. Name tag, I think, would be good.
One of the 17.
Listen up, listen up. Now listen up. Stay focused. Yeah.
One of the 7 teams is going to focus on what we were just going over. It focuses on bringing new people into the fold. This will be getting ahead of it a little bit, but Bud, you actually fall in that category. We'll go into that later. But it's going to be focused, again, dedicated to bringing new people into the fold, making sure that they don't feel like there's not a place for them.
Sure, right.
And then circle back around real quick. This topic, along with the last topic, thing that was mentioned in Module 0, people do not initially come to church to hear about God. They are coming for other reasons. That, whether it be children, whether it be just to have community around them.
Friend invited
Those
them.
involvement pieces, they're not coming to hear about God out of the door.
No.
That's not going to be what's going to bring them in our doors initially.
No.
That might be our end goal.
Right.
But keep that
And
in
he's
mind.
right. A lot of people don't. I was talking to a young man last Thursday or Friday, and he just, just can't figure out a reason why he needs God in his life. Things are going great for him. Young, married, good job. Wife's got a good job. Kids going fine. Things are going good. Scott, go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, do you think that problems like that start beginning to be solved whenever you start putting people into ministry places based on their...
I think it helps.
Yeah, instead of them being there because that's where nobody else has done it. Like that chart that they were showing. When you start putting people there because that's where their talents are instead of that's where they've been plugged in.
Sure.
I think it starts helping that because then if it's their true gift and their true talent, and I think God starts using them and starts growing that little center section.
Sure. And one of the, like I said, what Bud's talking about is one of the groups that addresses the shock and awe, you know, for people to come in and to be wowed and all that sort of stuff, and whether that's name tags or not, I don't know. Same thing it addresses with children. You know, one of the areas of specific ministry for kids only, is about kids, you know, and getting them in and stuff like that, you know. And but let's get on. So
Mark,
yes.
I think that one of the things I put as a strength is that I think our church is empowering, and I think that's really important to people that come in and they're new. I'm just looking around and I'm thinking about how empowering our church is to see that Josh is being a leader here. People that have come into our church, and Scott, and people that have that were new. We were here for a while, but new people that have come in and then they just moved up to be leaders in this church and stuff like that. I think that our church is great about that. And that's important in people's lives, to be empowered.
To be wanted and to be empowered. So that's the whole thing about the 7 teams is, you know, and we're being completely and totally honest with you for a moment. We know with our leadership structure, with our eldership, we just don't know what to do with everything else, because a lot of people are holding positions that aren't doing anything, you know, and we need these 7 teams. And so we're looking at it going, let's just wipe the slate clean, and we've got 7 teams. Everybody can join a team and serve. You can join a team and serve, but the biggest thing that we want to make sure that we're doing is that we are serving in our giftedness. You know, I mean, listen, I can play the guitar and sing, but y'all don't need me in the band. You know what I mean? And I don't want to I did it for years, but just because I can do it doesn't mean I need to be doing it. You know what I'm saying? And there's other different things too. You know what I mean? It's just, I think if we do the gift survey, it's an opportunity to really see, because through the computer algorithm, through how Josh is putting everything together, you're able to see some have the gifts of prophecy, some have the gift of welcoming, some have the gift of giving, some have the gift of equipping and teaching. And then you add it with everything else that they enjoy doing, they're passionate about. You find areas that you'd never know about, or maybe you might be a little bit, you know, nervous about. But hey, listen, I would not be a preacher today if a guy hadn't have said, hey man, nobody showed up for the kids, go talk to the teens for me. And I'm like, what? He's like, yeah man, go talk to the teens, they're easy to talk to. I'm going, no they're not. You know, and thank the good Lord, he said, hey, what do I talk to him about? He said, just talk to him about your devotion that you had this morning. And thank the good Lord I'd had a devotion that morning. You know, I mean, I never would have known. Because I told him, I'll do anything you want me to do, but do not ask me to teach these kids. That's what I told him. And I told him that 10,000 times, matter of fact. And he was like, hey man, I need you to go teach. I'm going, what? Now look at me now. Now he said you got the blame for all that too. All right, we only got 10 more minutes. Let's move on. Yes.
Okay. Not that this is a bar, but you know Cheers and their logo.
Sure, yeah,
everybody knows your name.
I don't watch that simple show, but anyway.
Showing our age. But it does make a difference, because when I used to work in the pharmacy, you get to know people personally because it's personal.
Right.
And I used to know people's names. And every time it's, oh, you know, Mr. Kravitz or whoever, he goes, I can't believe you remembered my name. And I always say, well, you're one of my favorite customers. I mean, because it makes people feel good when you know their names.
Right.
And it makes them feel more at home, where like you come in and like me, we came in because of Joyce.
Right.
You know, Joyce knows everybody. She's like the core person. But, you know, when someone knows your name, it puts that defense down. It makes you feel more, I belong.
Sure.
So, and I just meant to say about Cheers, because everybody knows your name. It's a place where you know you can go and be happy.
Right.
Right.
So
that's very important.
You've got a family fellowship. You go ahead.
Okay, so
Listen up.
4 things that they mentioned: vision, mission, purpose, and process statements. Okay?
Right.
In all of these things, you can kind of sum it up that it's sort of what we're about. Reaching one more for Jesus is essentially increasing the family of God, our family, increasing it. We're not, if we look at it as like we're going to do this particular thing, it's kind of corporate, it's kind of, we're going to strategize, and those are all important, but really, it's like our family. We want more in our family.
Right.
We want more people. These people living out here, we live in a society more and more that we don't even know who our neighbors are. We don't know what's going on. If we had to depend on somebody at 3 in the morning, who are we going to call? Do we have friends like that? Do we have a community like that? Well, then instead of calling it community, family. Is our family big enough to afford to help us that way? And so if we're looking at it like that, then we can use the ideas to strategize to get these people interested in something. Like he's saying, they're not coming here to see God. They're coming here because there's a need that's going to be filled, but they'll see God in that filling of that need.
And I think what Betty said is so key. It's the on my mind just went blank, but being inclusive. You know, you just have, but they've got to be able to feel that. Now listen, we really do need you now to put these words on that you're telling us. What you think our core, that's how we're going to build this. And now, instead of us just starting to come up with slogans, we need you to let down our core values. How has somebody inspired you, reached you, encouraged you? What do you see from our church? Put all these things down so then we can start narrowing it down and simplifying it so that we can get something that's easy for us, and it's the same for the outside world that we can build our ministries around. You know, and so we can do that. So I guess it just boils down to this. I mean, whether it's expanding what we've got or changing or whatever, I like the point that he says, you used to shop at a certain store. Now you don't go there anymore and you shop at that store. Now, listen, now I do know that there's a real problem with that. I do know that our culture has lost its loyalty to anything. People shop for churches like they go to Ingles, Publix, Kroger. It doesn't matter. I mean, I kid with my neighbors when I know most all my neighbors, and every time I ask them, say, "Hey, you still going?" I go, "I know you, but they're not going to the same church they were 6 months ago. They don't. They change. It cracks me up, you know. And so I know that, you know, that's out there. But I guess the point that I'm trying to get is the one thing I do think though is the ones that I go to time after time after time. Why do I go to them? And it's because it is, they're more likely it's how they treat me. You know what I mean? It's how they treat me, especially whenever I've got a crisis. You know, whenever I go to stores, like, you know, I go to a lot of auto parts stores for stuff like that, you know, and you usually go to an auto parts store. Why? Because you need a part, you need to fix something like that, and it's terrible whenever you can't get any help. Our culture is, there's a lot of people there who may not know that they're looking for God, but they've got needs, you know, and we can find how to help them through our core. So go ahead. Do we think that a vision statement, mission statement, adding on, changing or whatever, putting these words together, do you think it would rally our troops together for something greater? Just be honest, or do you think it, I mean,
rewording something
sure.
If you just hear it so many times the same old way, that makes no impact.
Right, I agree, yeah.
Rewording it could maybe make it a little more powerful.
Sure.
Also, as a teacher, every year, when you have the people and they create their own thing, you have ownership in it and more buy-in, so it has meaning for them instead of something that was created by somebody else for them.
That's the reason why it is so important. Please put your thoughts down. Your thoughts down on our core values and how you think our church is equipped. What we do well, that we think other people, you know, need in their life so that we can build on that. What we'll do is just go to our leaders meeting at the end of this month and we'll narrow it down. Then we'll come back and talk about it a little bit more next, get more ideas and thoughts. And like I said, we don't know how long this process will take. We do jump into the 7 teams. Is it August, Josh? That's when they start the actual modules. They don't go in order. I wish they did. I'm a very orderly person. I like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. They don't. They go like 3, 1, 7, whatever. Yeah, but it's proven to build a church. They know what they're doing, and so that's what we're doing. It's just going by that. But okay, exercise 2. Please put down here 10 reasons why people should attend your church. And then he says right here, write your mission statement. Just go ahead and put a few thoughts down there, you know. Make sure you've got all the buzzwords, the core values, but if there's something that enters your mind, write it down, and if not, that's fine. We'll get to it as we go. But we're in no hurry to do anything other than continue to learn why we are doing what we're doing. This is the biggest thing, and then we'll open it up before we close out here in a few minutes. I really never would have known about the Lord if somebody hadn't taken the time to spend time with me and share with me and mentor me and show me why Jesus could make a change in my life. You know, I mean, I really didn't, you know, and I think the same thing for you and I is once we really, you know, we were talking about a lot in our discipleship, but where the Apostle Paul says, you know, once we become convinced that this is good news and it's changed our life, we want to share it with others. We tell people all the time, hey, there's a sale over here at Belk's. Go buy your car here. Go shop there. We got to get that excited about what's happening at LifeBridge, that we're willing to do that. And I guarantee you, there's something out there. I've had very few people in my life go, I hate church, I hate God, don't ever say that to me again. What are you doing? Oh, you've offended me. Very few out of I don't know how many times I've said that. But yet we let the few scare us off. Let's finish up. It's often necessary to rename the church and to create what? Brand. To create a new brand, you should consider the mission and vision of the church, the culture, and the style. So anyway, branding is very important. Write down your core values. If you've got a thought for a mission statement, and then we'll put it all together and bring it back in a little more orderly fashion next month to be able to talk about it, and then watch the video and move on. Let me take just a couple of questions, and Ronnie, you know, anybody's willing, you know, questions, thoughts, Joyce, so far where we're at, if I've left anything out that y'all need to say, or anybody needs to say, really. Yes, ma'am.
One thing, as she said, when you come in and you do see maybe, for lack of a better word, clicks or whatever, which I don't really see that here. So I think everybody's very kind. But I think that small groups are very important. And I think he said the same thing in different locations.
I agree.
So if a new person comes in, you know, to tell them we have a small group in your area, come. I mean, that's how we started.
Sure.
I believe we went to a small group before we came to the church at Robbins Hill.
Yeah. Be sure to write that down, small group.
I did.
Yeah, okay. Now, remember, one of the 7 areas of ministry are small groups, you know, and I will tell you this, the Wednesday night thing here at the church kind of happened by accident. We didn't know it was going to explode into that many people. It just, a lot of our small groups just really weren't functioning properly. Eli and Blake asked me if I'd start a study for the parents that were dropping their kids off and leaving. You know, next thing you know, we started off with 8 or 10, then 12, and then all of a sudden came in here one day and there were 15 children and 35 adults. And we're going, oh gosh, well, we're going to have to get organized here. You know, so it's just kind of one of those things of the Lord. So, you know, but whatever the case. So any other thoughts? I'll get sidetracked. Yes, ma'am.
This is off the whack, but I was out of town where we had the first one. Is there any way we could go back and preview the first one?
Yes. Glad you said that. Listen very carefully to me. Let me tell you what you do. Google the 24 to double login. 24 to double login. All right, is everybody ready? Your username. Okay, if you want to write it down. 24 to double at lifebridgechurch.us. It's an email address. 24 to double at lifebridgechurch.us. The password is, this is, if I'm talking too fast, let me know. It's Hope is Here, 1, 2, 3, but it's capital H, capital I, capital H. 1, 2, 3. Hope is Here, 1, 2, 3. And then you can pull it on there. You can look at all the modules. It's got, if you want to know, it's got the syllabus for the next 25 months. You can look up and see what any of the themes are, what month. You can look at, I think they give us like 8 or 9 different sermon series that the guy preaches. You're welcome to look at those. He's got all different, you can look at all, watch all the modules, read about them. But I will tell you this, it's a little bit tricky. You have to click onto the module, and then you got to click onto it again for it to tell you, for it shows you the arrow, that means it's about to play it. And once you see the arrow, if you then scroll down, you find all these papers that I'm handing you. Okay? But without doing that, you'll never find these pieces of paper with the syllabus and the handouts. Every module has handouts with the answers. Not keeping it secret from you. Josh, go ahead.
It's also streaming and recording, so it'll be on our page.
YouTube, the YouTube?
It's
Yep.
on YouTube.
Yep.
So the previous session, all of the discussion and everything, along with this session and all the discussion is online. So I can make an easier way for them to go to it, but right now you just go to the YouTube page.
I'd like to wrap it up, but a couple more thoughts before I read you a couple of things so you know what's going on.
Back to that. I've lost it. Never mind.
Okay. I lose it most every Sunday, so it's all right. You go.
Even if you don't feel that you have the perfect answer to any of these questions, write down your initial thoughts. You can always grab an additional copy of this and write them down again. We can revisit all of it as we continue developing this out.
Don't write down what you think somebody else wants to hear.
Yeah.
Write down what you believe, what you think. That's why we want all of you a part of this. Let me share a few things with you, okay? Then we'll be done. I told you I have both books. You're welcome to borrow them, Simple Church and Purpose Driven. I really do feel like as a church we're already ahead of the game in a lot of these areas. As we start breaking into these 7 teams, I think we're going to be able to smoothly get those going. I do want us to understand why we're doing what we're doing. Please, we need everybody to fill out a gift survey. Don't think, oh gosh, I've been in the church for 50 years. You know, we need your gift survey. I think you'll be excited about learning it too. It's a month-by-month thing. We'll meet in July. We know that the first Wednesday in July is July 4th. So we're thinking about the second Wednesday, which will be on the 11th. Same thing at 6:30 with just drinks and desserts. And then once we get in August, some of the videos will get a little bit longer. So we're going to play that by ear and see if we need a couple of doing 24 double a couple of nights, you know, in a row to make sure we get the proper discussion in. So but right now we know in July we're doing it the second Wednesday in July at 6:30. Let me just say a couple of things and then we'll be done here. I told you about how to log into 24 to double. Oh, don't want to forget this. Our elders were talking about, a lot of you have been asking questions about this. You know, we've been talking to other churches about networking for for about a year, I guess. Wouldn't you say, Ronnie? Yeah. We had talked to East Ridge Community Church. They were talking about having different, you know, expanding their congregation to different locations and stuff like that. Talked to us about that. We talked to them about it. We considered it and everything like that. But then we felt like that, you know, after talking with them and everything, we just really felt like maybe they really weren't as ready as they thought they were to do that. Because they've got 3 campuses now, and their 3 campuses are having all kind of issues, and we didn't want to step into something where there were more issues than what we even had. You know what I'm saying? So they're working their issues for the next year or two, and then we'll see what happens. We talked to First Christian Church in Monroe many occasions. They weren't interested. They were. Go figure. Now Danny Shoemake's there. Don't know what's going to happen. You know, Bethel Christian Church talked to me about they lost their pastor, and they talked to me, you know, about doing some interesting things, you know, with them, and we talked about it, prayed about it, and we just, you know, they're just conversations out there that we just don't know what the Lord wanting to do. You know, if He's wanting us, we just know that the Christian church is dying. Most all of them are closing their doors. There's very few healthy Christian churches in the state of Georgia, and there's, you know. And the Christian churches do not network together and start remaking and teaming up. You know, a lot of empty buildings in the state of Georgia. And so but the good news for us is we've not initiated anything. People have come to us and just said, you know, so who knows? But we're just telling you that we don't really know any of that right now. All that stuff is we're concentrating on LifeBridge. We're doing this 24 to double. If anything else comes up along the way, we'll be glad to talk about it, pray with anybody and see. But as of right now, we just haven't found what we feel like the Lord would want us to do. So we're just plugging on as LifeBridge Christian Church in between Georgia, and then we'll see what happens. But we're open to anything. We're not open or we're open. We're not closed to anything. But we just You know, we don't really have a definitive answer on anything because I don't think you ever really say never, you know, but let's just wait and see. But we do know that the wave of the future is 12 Stone. Everywhere you look, there's a 12 Stone campus. Greystone's got a couple of campuses. I don't know if they'll continue, if they will, or if they won't. But we know that there are a lot of free chapels coming here, you know, coming into Loganville. And we know that Bethlehem is making its way around, and North Point is coming here. So, that, you know, that's just a big, huge deal right now. Churches, you know, so I mean, you're either going to team up or you're going to get eaten up. You know, so we're just trying to see what God would have us to do, and but we know that we've got a lot to get going on here at this church, and then who knows about the future? You just never know. We're just going to trust the Lord for where we're at, and if we double in the next 2 years, we feel like we'll be fine and strong. We really felt like we were doing great. I was kidding with somebody the other day. A year ago at this time, we were talking with Ken and our elders about going to 2 services. Parking lot was full. This place was 85% full every single Sunday. Money out the wazoo, doing great. And then all it takes is a few mess ups, and you find out you're vulnerable just like that. You know, and so this is not where I envisioned us a year ago. But you know what? You go back and you just keep building the church and loving people and serving the Lord, and you know, there's always ups and downs, you know, and so came from a large church. I just know that we can do it. I really do. I believe it, and believe that we can build a good, strong church here. And there's no telling what we could do as we keep rallying together and just take a little bit of outside advice, keep praying, serving, staying together, loving each other, remembering the biggest and most important thing. It's about the lost.
Yes.
It's about those who don't know Jesus.
When they say 11% of people go to church.
It is scary.
I mean, that's the thing to me, is how do we change that number, you know?
Well, this is it. 24 to double. If everybody in this room doubles themselves with somebody that looks just like you, the church is going to be just fine. Not just this church, but people that we reach, they will reach people. If other churches do the same thing and don't turn inward, you know, I think the only way to combat it is we're convinced that this is good news and we share that with other people.
Mark,
You know? Yes, ma'am.
I think it would be good too if we had some conversations with people who don't go to church.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, what would attract you to a church, or why don't you go to church? Because you know, like it said, we tend to look inside, create things that are for us.
Right.
But we've got this 80% of people not going to church on Sunday, so why? I mean, they are a great resource.
Sure.
The lost people are a resource that we need to tap into, because how can we know how to target them if we don't have conversations with them and talk to them?
Well, that's a good idea. Let me tell you this. Since 24 to double started, I've been walking, talking, you know, seeing people at the store or at the mall or neighborhood or wherever I go. And I always, when I see somebody, and if I don't know if they go to church or not, I'll tell them, listen, our church needs you. We need you. You know, come help us build the church, build the kingdom of God. I've just been open and honest. So listen, I need a young family like you. I need somebody just like you to come in here. I need you to come and help us build our church. No holds barred. 7 teams, join a team and serve. Probably the only thing we won't let them do is maybe babies and money till we get to know them. You know what I mean? But I mean, join a team and serve. You know, but I think, Cindy, you're right. You know, that's what we need to do. Is we ought to start walking up to people and asking people if they go to church, and they say, why don't you go to church? And we can learn from it. You know, I mean, I'll tell you this. A lot of people, one or two things. Either they haven't been invited or they're mad at God. Poor old God, he doesn't need my pity, but, you know, he does. People want to conveniently choose whenever they want him in their life, but they always blame him when things go wrong. Yes, ma'am. Julie.
Well, to kind of touch on what she said, it's, you know, like we say we want more people, and I didn't know if that was a vision statement, but I'm just going to write it down. You know, like we need you to build our family, you know, but it's like, how far are we willing to go to get those people? Are we looking for a certain kind of person, like inwardly like we are? Or are we really willing to go to where we know the lost people are? Are we willing to go to the middle of Monroe where nobody wants to travel? I mean, you know, there's so many teenagers and the crime rate is so high because they are lost and they're looking for somewhere to belong and
Right.
they choose the wrong place.
And I'll say this, that one of those 7 teams is outreach. So people who have that gift to say that there's somebody that needs to be reached, they'll get on that team and be a part of it. Yes, ma'am.
That's all right. You know, it might sound silly, but if we have a card, you know, if
Sure.
everybody took 5 cards and they talked to 5 people, because I know Rosemary, we were at the pool and she invited somebody.
Sure.
And, you know, it was like we were talking and everything. They're brand new, they moved in the same day I did, they happened to be my neighbor. You know, we said, yeah, we go to Life Bridge and we're on 78 in Monroe. Well, it could be any church on 78.
Sure.
They
Right.
have no idea they're new here, you know, so if we each take 5 cards and be able to hand them out.
We've got cards, yeah.
Yeah, and just hand them to somebody because we're at the pool, they have no
But
idea.
do you mind to write that down so that we can be sure to remind ourselves of it? Josh and then Bud, then we need to wrap it up. Yes, Josh, go ahead. Oh, Bud, go ahead.
You know, Janie, this is probably very true, and I don't want to step on anybody's toes in here. But I'll just use myself, very transparent wise. Our family fits that 11% of non-attenders, unchurched people. And I'm talking adults. And tomorrow that number grows by 1 more. At 10 o'clock in the morning, we're going to have a cesarean section great-grandson born at the hospital. And so our numbers are growing, and the big excuse is the millennials. That is not what they're using, but politically correctly would be the millennials. But they don't want to have anything to do with church. They're damaged from divorce, they're damaged from rejection. And you see Kaya come in here, she's very wholesome because she is church. She looks forward to it, and she's welcomed by many of you. And so I think when we look inside our own families, not necessarily our own homes, we have some unchurched people right there, perhaps waiting for us, perhaps praying with them might steer them this way. And we do it every Sunday with our family. We meet at our house for dinner, and we talk about it. We pray. We pray about it. So,
Josh.
Pray for us.
Yep.
Just so y'all have a good, clean idea of exactly what I get back when we actually input these gifts and talent surveys. Right here, I'm clicking on the right spot for a second. All right, so you have the 17s, right? From there, you also have the individual breakdown of positions.
Yes, see, leader, prophet, merciful, encourager, teacher, helper, giver.
Yep. It gives a score. The areas that you have interest in, and then it also gives a score based off of each of the positions. So that we have a good, clean idea of where you'll best fit into each team.
Gift survey, anybody need a gift survey? Anybody? Anybody need it? Thank you for coming tonight. Listen, thank you so much for the food. We'll do it again. They're the second week there in July. Look forward to seeing you. I hope you have a wonderful week. God bless you. Who would like to pray us out the door?
Where do you want these, Pastor?
Oh, yeah, please, hand up, give them to Scott. Hold them.
Pass them to the...
Yeah, pass them to the center aisle. Pass them to the center aisle. Thank you very, very much. Brother Ronnie, would you dismiss us with prayer? Would you dismiss us with prayer? Yeah. And then I hope you filled them all out. Like I said, we'll pull all this together. Then we'll come back next month with kind of some more ideas and thoughts and move on to the next module as we still figure all this out. But listen, y'all are very, very important. So thank you so much for coming. I know it's summertime and people are traveling, but I'm so glad that you're here. And I pray God's blessings over you and our church, you know, and the good things that He has in store for our church
And we love
in
you
the future.
more.
Well, that's good.
That's the reason
good.
I'm here.
Yeah, that's good. All right, Brother Ronnie. Pray for us.
My mother had a favorite song when she was in the Baptist church. I've not heard it in a long time. It's, I looked all over heaven, I couldn't find you. There's a lot of folks that I don't want to have to say that to. So for the sake of others, keeping it simple, let's pray. Lord, you've called us for such a time as this to serve. You planted a seed in each person here, Lord, that should manifest itself and grow. But let us have much more faith than we have fear to where we're headed, because we're in your hands, Lord. Thank you for the giving you've provided tonight, the talent, the exchange of information. Lord, it's your church. We make it up. Let us follow you and let your will be done. And you take us to the next level. That's the things in your name.
Amen. Amen. Thank y'all so much for coming.